At first glance, there was nothing unusual about the relationship. An elderly woman living out her final years, cared for by the daughter she had raised and trusted her entire life. To neighbors and outsiders, it appeared to be a familiar story. A devoted daughter stepping in to help her aging mother navigate the challenges of declining health and memory loss. But according to investigators, the reality behind those closed doors was far different. What began as a caregiving arrangement would eventually become the focus of a disturbing criminal investigation. Authorities allege that the elderly woman was living in conditions marked by neglect and isolation. As her physical and cognitive health deteriorated, questions began to emerge about who was truly looking after her best interests. Then came a series of discoveries that would shock even seasoned investigators. A bedroom door allegedly locked from the outside. An elderly woman was found living in troubling conditions, and the disappearance of hundreds of thousands of dollars, money that represented a lifetime of hard work, sacrifice, and savings. The amount was staggering, more than $500,000. Police say the person responsible was not a stranger looking for an easy target. It wasn't a sophisticated scammer operating from another country. It wasn't a burglar breaking into homes under the cover of darkness. According to investigators, the person at the center of it all was the victim's own daughter. This is the case of Janet Edwards, a story of family, trust, and allegations of betrayal. And it raises a troubling question. How do you lose everything when the person holding the keys to your life is someone you love the most? By 2022, life had become increasingly difficult for a 78-year-old woman living in Hialeah, Florida. Her husband had passed away on December 31st of that year. After his death, responsibility for her care fell largely to her daughter. 49-year-old Janet Edwards became her mother's primary caregiver. According to investigators, the elderly woman suffered from significant cognitive decline. She struggled with memory loss. Doctors had reportedly determined years earlier that she was no longer capable of independently handling financial matters or making important legal decisions. Simple tasks that many people take for granted have become impossible. Bathing, managing medications, preparing meals, handling money, transportation. She depended on others for nearly every aspect of daily life. And because of that dependence, she was especially vulnerable. Authorities say Janet Edwards occupied a position of complete trust. But what happened next would eventually trigger a criminal investigation. The first warning signs reportedly came from inside the family itself. Not from neighbors, not from doctors, not from law enforcement, but from Janet's own daughter, the elderly woman's granddaughter. According to police reports, she became increasingly concerned about how her grandmother was being treated. She allegedly witnessed conditions that shocked her. Investigators later stated that she had photographs showing her grandmother in severe neglect. One image reportedly showed the elderly woman with feces on her hands. Another allegation claimed she had been seen consuming it. The granddaughter also told authorities about a disturbing incident she allegedly witnessed. She claimed that sometime during August or September of 2025, Janet appeared frustrated and angry. And during that confrontation, she allegedly slapped her elderly mother across the face. For the granddaughter, enough was enough. She contacted authorities, and that phone call would change everything. When detectives arrived to conduct a welfare check, what they reportedly found raised immediate concerns. According to the arrest report, the elderly woman's bedroom door was locked from the outside. Think about that for a moment. Not locked from the inside, locked from the outside. Authorities say they discovered the woman lying on an air mattress. The room reportedly had no electricity. Investigators believe the conditions were unacceptable for someone requiring constant care and supervision. The discovery led to Janet Edwards' first arrest in October 2025. She was charged with neglect of an elderly or disabled adult and battery on a person over the age of 65. For many cases, that would have been the end of the story. But in this investigation, it was only the beginning. Because once Janet was arrested, family members gained access to records they had never closely examined before. And what they allegedly discovered would open an entirely new criminal case, one involving hundreds of thousands of dollars. After Janet's arrest, guardianship of the elderly woman was reportedly granted to her granddaughter. As she began sorting through documents and financial records, She noticed something unusual: bank statements, transfers, withdrawals. Large amounts of money are moving between accounts. The transactions stretch back years. Investigators launched a financial review. What they uncovered painted a troubling picture. According to authorities, the elderly victim had been experiencing memory issues as early as 2019. By 2021, doctors had reportedly concluded she lacked the capacity to manage her finances. Yet despite that determination, major financial decisions continued to occur in her name. Investigators alleged that Janet Edwards was controlling those transactions, and the amounts involved were staggering. One transaction immediately stood out. On July 22, 2024, a pickup truck was purchased for nearly $24,000. Authorities say documents connected to the purchase included receipts and authorization forms. Investigators allege the money used to buy the vehicle came directly from the elderly woman's checking account, not Janet's account, her mother's. To prosecutors, the truck represented something important, a tangible example of how the victim's money was allegedly being redirected for someone else's benefit. But investigators say the truck was only a small piece of the puzzle. The real money came from somewhere else, the family home. Back in 2003, the elderly woman and her husband had purchased a property in Hialeah. For many families, a home represents decades of sacrifice, mortgage payments, savings, retirement security, memories. Investigators say that the home was sold on June 26, 2024. The sale price? Approximately $625,000. According to authorities, Janet used a power of attorney to complete the transaction. After closing costs and fees, more than $462,000 in proceeds were deposited into the elderly woman's bank account. That money represented much of her life's accumulated wealth, her savings, her financial future, her security. But investigators say the funds didn't remain there for long. They allege that more than $250,000 was transferred into accounts controlled by Janet Edwards. And that's when investigators began viewing the situation not simply as financial mismanagement, but as deliberate exploitation. In their report, investigators concluded that Janet Edwards allegedly used her position as daughter and caregiver to exploit her mother. Authorities argue that the victim's advanced age, severe cognitive impairment, and inability to manage her own affairs made her especially vulnerable. The accusation is particularly disturbing because elder exploitation often happens behind closed doors. Unlike a robbery, unlike a burglary, the victim usually knows the person responsible, often love them, trust them, depends on them, and that trust can become a weapon. According to the police, that's exactly what happened here. On June 5, 2026, Janet Edwards was arrested again, this time facing charges including exploitation of the elderly, grand theft from the elderly, organized scheme to defraud, and criminal use of identification. She was booked into jail and held on bond while the case moved through the court system. As always, Janet Edwards remains presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. For the elderly victim and her family, the legal battle may be just beginning. But one question remains: if the allegations are true, what hurts more? Losing your life savings or discovering the person who took it was your own child? As the investigation continues, one elderly woman is left facing a reality she may never fully understand. The home she shared with her husband, gone. Much of her life savings, gone. And according to investigators, the person responsible may have been someone she trusted without question. Cases like this rarely begin with violence. They begin with trust, a signature, a bank card, a promise to help. And sometimes, the deepest wounds aren't left by strangers. They're left by their family. Janet Edwards remains innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. The allegations remain just that, allegations. And the final verdict belongs to the justice system. But this case serves as a chilling reminder. Sometimes the most dangerous person in a victim's life isn't hiding in the shadows. They're already sitting at the family table. If this story shocked you, don't leave without telling us what you think. Do you believe financial exploitation of the elderly should carry harsher penalties? And should family members face even greater consequences when they abuse positions of trust? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. The discussion starts there. If you're new to Shadow Case Files, subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week we uncover real cases of deception, betrayal, greed, and the dark secrets people thought would never be discovered. Until next time, lock your doors, protect the vulnerable, and remember, some of the darkest crimes aren't committed in the streets. They're committed behind closed doors. The truth always leaves a trail. Every case leaves a shadow. And every mystery deserves a voice. This is Shadow Case Files.